There were exactly 27 toothpicks on the bathroom floor. Not 26. Not 28. I counted them twice. That's how I knew something was wrong. You don't just walk into your master bathroom, the one only you and your wife use, and find 24 toothpicks scattered in a near-perfect crescent around the sink. Like some kind of ritual. Like someone needed them to be there. At first, I thought one of the kids had gotten in. Maybe built something weird and forgotten it. But they were all snapped in half. Not chewed. Snapped. Like someone had taken the time to break each one down the middle. Marla had been locked in there for nearly 45 minutes that morning. I knocked twice. She said she was tweezing. When I asked why she was crying, she said it was allergies. We live in Nebraska. It's October. There's nothing blooming except suspicion. I stood there in the doorway with my work bag still slung over my shoulder, looking at these tiny wooden splinters, and felt this cold, thick silence spreading through my chest. It had been like this for a while now, little things that didn't make sense. Half-finished laundry. Grocery receipts I didn't recognize. Her humming in the kitchen, but only when she thought I wasn't listening. We hadn't kissed in over 3 weeks. And I don't mean just the sexy kind of kissing, I mean anything. No forehead kiss when I brought her coffee. No thank you kiss after I stayed up fixing her printer. Not even an accidental brush when we passed in the hallway. She hadn't touched me in 23 days. Yes, I counted. Because that's what you do when you're living with someone who's still there physically, but has already moved out emotionally. You start counting things. Like a prisoner carving lines into the wall. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, she came into the living room with a blanket and curled up on the opposite end of the couch. She was scrolling her phone, laughing at something silently. I asked what it was. She said just a meme. I knew she was lying. Marla never laughs at memes. So I said what I swore I wouldn't say anymore. I said, "Do you even want to be with me?" She didn't look up from her phone, just shrugged and said, "I don't know. But I do know I don't want to be intimate with you. It feels fake." Not angry. Not cruel. Just flat. Like someone canceling a magazine subscription. That was the moment something in me switched off. I stood up, walked past her, and went straight to the laundry room. I grabbed the bag of toothpicks from the cleaning shelf. The one she always used for those fussy little appetizers she made when her friends came over. I took exactly 27, walked back to the bathroom, and snapped each one in half. I left them in a crescent around the sink. A message. A line in the sand. If she could silently pull away from me, I could silently stop helping her hold the illusion together. That night, I didn't tuck the kids in. I didn't set up her automatic coffee timer. I didn't load the dishwasher she'd forgotten again. I just went to bed. On my side. Back turned. She didn't say goodnight. But I think she noticed the toothpicks. I wasn't planning to say anything. Not after the toothpicks. That was supposed to be my line drawn in the dust of our crumbling routine. I thought maybe she'd say something. Ask, laugh, cry, accuse, anything. But the next morning, she stepped over them like they didn't exist. As if they were just splinters from a broom. I watched her do it. From the hallway. She paused at the doorframe for half a second, blinked, and then kept brushing her hair like nothing was there. Like I wasn't there. So I upped the stakes. I stopped checking the mail, even though she always forgot. I left her favorite hoodie in the dryer for 4 days so it shrank to toddler size. I forgot to refill the gas tank in her car, even though I knew she'd be late to work. Petty? Probably. But I was tired of bleeding out slowly while she floated above me in some kind of fog made of playlists, Pinterest boards, and passive-aggressive silences. The only real thing she still seemed to care about was her skincare routine. Not the kids. Not our marriage. Just jars and tubes and tinctures lined up like soldiers along the bathroom counter. And lately, she'd been obsessed with this almond oil, some artisanal, imported nonsense with a label that looked handwritten and cost more than our microwave. One night, while she was putting it on, I walked in without knocking. She jumped like I'd caught her hiding a body. "Sorry," I said. Didn't know the oil ceremony was sacred. She didn't laugh. Just said, "Can I have a minute?" But I didn't leave. Instead, I asked, "Is it for him?" Her hand froze mid-swipe across her collarbone. "What are you talking about?" "The oil. The weird effort lately. The new passwords on your phone. The fresh groceries that no one eats. Is it all for someone else?" There it was. The first real pause in weeks. She stared at the sink, the same one still stained with toothpaste and steam and memory. "I'm not sleeping with anyone else," she said. "Not, no. Not, how dare you. Not even, What the hell are you accusing me of? Just, I'm not sleeping with anyone else. Which wasn't the question I asked. And that was the closest thing to a confession I'd ever get. Later that night, I looked up almond oil. Not because I cared about the ingredients, but because I couldn't understand why she'd suddenly started using it religiously. That's when I learned something weird. The oil was aphrodisiac adjacent. Not in a scammy, perfume-ad way, but in a subtle, scent-trigger memory stimulant kind of way. It was used in massages, in romantic soaps. Some people even burned it during therapy sessions to rekindle trust. So if she wasn't using it for me, who was it for? I started watching her closer. When she wore it. When she didn't. When she came home smelling like it after just a quick run to Target. When she didn't wear it at all on our anniversary dinner that I had to remind her about. That's when the idea started forming. Not just that she might be emotionally cheating, but that she might be rehearsing, practicing a new version of herself for someone else. And I couldn't help but wonder, had she already shown it to him? Whoever he was. I didn't confront her again. I just waited. And then I found the voice note. I wasn't even looking for anything. That's what makes it worse. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't trying to catch her in a lie. Not that time. I was just trying to connect her Bluetooth speaker to my phone because mine had randomly unpaired again. We have this cheap speaker in the kitchen that always forgets which device it's connected to. It's stupid, but it's part of our morning routine. Or was. She used to play jazz while we made breakfast together on weekends. Now it just sat there, silent and dusty, like everything else we used to share. Anyway, I opened the Bluetooth menu on her iPad. And there it was, an unfamiliar device name, DM Audio. Not hers. Not mine. Not the kids. It hadn't been connected before. And for some reason, that little name stuck in my brain like a splinter. DM. Who the hell was DM? Curiosity got the better of me. I opened her voice memos. Not her texts, not her photos, just the voice memos. I told myself I was being paranoid, ridiculous. Probably some shopping list or reminders for the kids. But there was one file. It was 43 seconds long. And it was labeled, "Don't send unless 100% sure." My thumb hovered for maybe 5 seconds. Then I tapped it. The first sound was her breath. Nervous, soft. Then her voice. A version of her I hadn't heard in a long time. Not irritated. Not rushed. Gentle. Almost flirty. "Hey. Okay, this is weird. I don't know if I'll send this. But I wanted to say it out loud at least once. You make me feel like I'm me again. Like the version of me I thought died in year 5 of marriage. I know this is messy, and I know it's wrong. But if I don't say it, I'll combust. So yeah, I think about you. Way too much. That's all." Click. Silence. I replayed it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand what she was saying, but because I couldn't believe how she said it. The softness. The way her voice smiled at the end. That voice used to be for me. Now it was being rehearsed, recorded, hidden, meant for someone whose initials were probably DM Dean? Daniel? David? Does it even matter? I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed beside her, eyes open, feeling my chest rise and fall like it belonged to someone else. She had fallen asleep quickly, or maybe she was pretending. Either way, her breathing was calm while my head buzzed with rage, hurt, humiliation. The next morning, I didn't say a word. I made coffee, packed the kids' lunches, answered emails. I moved through the motions like a ghost on a tightrope. My hands did everything they were supposed to, but my mind was stuck on repeat. I think about you. Way too much. Later that afternoon, I left work early. Told my boss I had a stomach bug, which wasn't a lie. Technically, my stomach was in knots. I went to her favorite cafe, the one she used to go to on her me-time Saturdays. I parked across the street. Waited. Sure enough, her car showed up at 3:17 p.m. She wasn't alone. A tall man stepped out of the passenger side. I couldn't see his face at first, but he walked like he belonged somewhere else. Too confident, too relaxed. She smiled at him the second he stepped onto the sidewalk. The same smile she used to give me in our first year. Before the kids. Before the bills. Before the almond oil and the 27 toothpicks. They didn't touch. But they didn't have to. You know that space between people that says everything without a word? That's what they had. They went inside. I sat in the car for almost 20 minutes before I drove away. I didn't follow them. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even cry. I just went home. And that night, I started a folder on my desktop. Project Exit. No drama. No confrontation. But I was done pretending this was salvageable. She had rehearsed her confession for him. Now I would start planning mine, for the day I'd leave without warning. And she'd never see it coming. The first thing I did was stop refilling the printer ink. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but it was symbolic. She never figured out how to change it, not once in 10 years. She printed out everything, recipes, coupons, return labels, even meditation quotes she never followed. I used to quietly keep it stocked, clean the heads, replace the paper. Just one of 1,000 invisible tasks I did to keep our life from falling apart. Not anymore. That was step one. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want to win. I wanted clarity. And the only way I was going to get it was by removing every piece of glue I had used to hold this joke of a marriage together. No arguments. No accusations. Just subtraction. I backed up all the important documents from our shared laptop to a private drive. Insurance, mortgage, birth certificates, account info, anything I might need if I had to leave quickly. I set up a separate bank account in my name only. Small deposits at first. Just birthday money and unused gift cards. Nothing noticeable, but it was mine. She didn't notice any of it. She was too busy falling in love with someone who wasn't me. At dinner, she started humming again, quietly, under her breath, while slicing sweet potatoes. I asked her what the tune was. She said, "Nothing, just stuck in my head." But I'd heard it before. It was the same melody she used to play on her phone while texting him. That subtle, bubbly tune, like a music box laced with poison. She was glowing again, but not for me. She had this weird softness in her face now, like her skin remembered how to be touched. And every time I looked at her, I felt like I was watching someone else wearing my wife's body. So I distanced myself in return. Not physically, that would raise red flags. I still slept beside her. I still poured her coffee. But the intimacy was hollow. I gave her nothing real. I became polite, robotic, helpful in the way a hotel concierge is helpful, efficient, smiling, but emotionally vacant. And she didn't even notice. She thought I was getting better. That's the part that stung the most. Not the cheating, not the lies, but the fact that my absence felt like peace to her. My silence was her space to bloom. I was no longer the man she had to lie to. I was just a background object now. A faucet that worked. A chair that didn't squeak. A doormat. Around this time, our daughter started asking weird questions. Why does mommy always smile at her phone? Why don't you and mommy laugh together anymore? Why did mommy say she's stuck when she was talking on the porch? I didn't even know she was listening. But kids always are. They're better at reading tension than adults. They just don't know what to call it yet. I hugged her tighter that night. I didn't want my children to grow up in a house where performing marriage took priority over living honestly. So I started leaving hints. Little, sharp things she couldn't ignore. A post-it note on the fridge that said, "Don't forget who's watching." An old photo of us, the last time we looked truly happy, casually placed on the bathroom mirror, like a ghost of the past staring back at her eyeliner. A wine glass set for one, even though I always used to pour two. None of it was loud, but it rattled her. I saw it in her eyes when she asked, "Everything okay?" And for the first time in months, I smiled, wide and fake and terrifying. "Perfect," I said, because soon it would be. The best lies are the ones built with silence and slow withdrawal. And mine was almost ready to bloom. I thought I had her all figured out. I thought this was textbook. Wife meets someone new, gets emotionally swept away, detaches from husband, plays the game until she can either exit gracefully or pin the blame on me when I snap. I've read the threads, the articles, the forums. Hell, I probably could have written a few myself at this point. But I didn't expect what happened next. It started with a slip, not hers, but mine. I had been so careful, so controlled. And then one night, I left my project exit folder open on my laptop. I know, amateur move. I'd been organizing a timeline, finances, school schedules, a clean custody plan, something I could take to a lawyer when I was ready. Just facts. No drama. I went upstairs to put our son to bed and forgot to close the screen. When I came back down, she was standing there. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She was just staring at the screen like it was a terminal diagnosis. "You're leaving me?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to. God knows I had rehearsed it 1,000 different ways in the shower, in the car, in the frozen food aisle. But in that moment, seeing her face, not angry, but hollow, all the weight I'd been carrying felt like it landed on her instead. She closed the laptop gently and walked out of the room. No fight. No denial. No defense. She didn't even say my name. The silence afterward felt like the kind you hear right before an earthquake. Everything still, but vibrating underneath. The next day, she wasn't home. She hadn't taken her car, but she was just gone. I checked the gym, her sister's place, her favorite bookstore. Nothing. Around noon, I finally broke down and texted her. One word. Where? She replied 10 minutes later. Don't follow me. I need to be away from all of it. And for the next 48 hours, she was a ghost. I kept up appearances for the kids. Picked them up, packed lunches, did homework, read bedtime stories. But my mind was spiraling. What if she took something? What if she really left for good? Not to escape me, but to run with him. Then, on the third day, she came back. Her eyes were red. Her hair was a mess. She smelled like stale clothes and airport soap. But she didn't speak. She went upstairs, took a shower, changed, and came back down holding a manila envelope. She set it on the table between us. I need you to look at this, she said. Then we can talk. Inside were printed emails, screenshots, a business card, handwritten notes, and one photo, not of her and another man, but of me, in a parking lot. I stared at it, confused. It was from a distance, but unmistakably me, walking to my car outside the office. There was a date scribbled under it. From a month ago. I thought I was having an affair, she said quietly. I really did. I thought I was losing it, falling into something dangerous. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. I looked at the photo again, this time with a different lens. The angle, the compression, it was from a long lens. Surveillance style. I've been talking to someone, she continued. Not romantically. A man from a support group. He lost his wife 2 years ago and started helping other people in broken marriages. We met online, through a forum. It wasn't love. It was guidance. But he got obsessed, possessive. He started tracking me. Then he found you. I couldn't speak. She slid a second photo across the table. Same man from the cafe. Only this time he wasn't smiling. He was watching her from a distance. She hadn't seen him in the moment. But the barista had, and snapped the picture after Marla left. The man wasn't who I thought he was. He wasn't her affair. He was stalking her. And suddenly, everything I thought I knew, all the coldness, the distance, the distraction, it didn't look like betrayal anymore. It looked like fear. She'd been pulling away, not because she didn't love me, but because she didn't know how to tell me she was scared. Scared of what I'd think. Scared that I'd accuse her. Scared that I'd leave. And I almost did. I almost destroyed everything because I assumed the worst. Now, I had a different question burning in my brain. If she wasn't having an affair, then who was I preparing to leave? The man's name was Darren Myers. 48. Divorced. Former church counselor. Had a blog about emotional healing in modern marriages. Not particularly well known, but he had just enough of a following to seem credible in the right context. Enough to seem safe. Until you looked closer. Marla showed me the email history between them. It started innocently enough. He responded to a comment she left on a marriage article. Just a link to one of his own pieces, the quiet suffocation of resentment. She read it. It spoke to her. She replied. Then the messages got longer. He started asking deeper questions. About her relationship. Her childhood. Me. She answered honestly. Or at least honestly from her point of view. I read her replies, every single one. And it was like hearing a version of myself I didn't recognize. She described me as emotionally absent, passive-aggressive, quietly judgmental. I wanted to argue with every sentence. I wanted to say, that's not true. I've been hurting too. You just never asked. But the words were already there in black and white. This was how she had been surviving me, by pouring the ugliest parts of our silence into someone else's inbox. But the thing is, I understood it. Not because I agreed with everything, but because I realized I had never asked her how lonely she was. I was so consumed by my own quiet despair, by my own fantasy of being the betrayed one, that I never stopped to ask who she cried to while I was busy sulking in silence. What scared me more than anything was how easy it had been to turn on her. I had constructed an entire exit strategy around a false narrative. I had convinced myself she was the villain. I had weaponized my own victimhood so thoroughly that even when she'd been emotionally spiraling, even when she was being stalked by a man pretending to be her lifeline, I was too busy counting almond oil bottles and chore scores. When I read the final email she sent to Darren, I stopped breathing for a full 10 seconds. This needs to stop. My marriage is broken, but I'm not. I don't want to talk anymore. You're not helping me. You're using me. Don't contact me again. He didn't reply to that one. But 2 days later, she found her car door open in the driveway. Nothing stolen. Nothing broken. Just open. As if someone wanted her to know they'd been there. She didn't tell me then. She thought she was imagining it. She didn't want me to think she was unraveling. But now I saw it. All of it. And it made me sick. I had been so fixated on my little private rebellion. Leaving printer ink empty. Withdrawing emotionally like it was some noble act of resistance. And the whole time, she was being hunted by someone who had turned her vulnerability into a blueprint. We filed a police report, of course. But the officer who showed up was polite and unsurprised. Apparently Darren had done this before. Not aggressively, not illegally enough to get jailed, just creepy enough to leave women shaken and unsure if they were overreacting. Restraining orders are tricky with people like him, the officer said. He knows how to stay on the edge of the law. We were told to document everything. Install cameras. Vary our routines. And just like that, my story of a broken marriage became something else entirely. We started locking every window twice. Double-checking the car. Leaving lights on at odd hours. But the real paranoia wasn't external. It was in us. In the way Marla flinched when the doorbell rang. In the way I jumped when I saw someone loitering too long on our block. We slept with the bedroom door locked now. For the first time in our marriage. Not because we were trying to keep intimacy in, but because we were afraid of what might come in. And through all of this, we never really talked about us. Not about what she wrote. Not about what I planned. We both carried the weight of our private betrayals like matching backpacks we didn't want to open yet. Instead, we were forced into unity by fear. Not love. Not forgiveness. Just fear. But something strange happened in that forced stillness. One night, she put her phone down first. She turned off her light first. She moved an inch closer in the bed. Not enough to touch. Just enough to notice. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," I said. And for the first time in what felt like years, we finally meant the same thing. It was the drawer I never opened. Second one down on her side of the bathroom vanity. Not because it was locked or hidden, but because, well, there's something about long-term relationships that makes you avoid the things that aren't meant for you. That drawer was always full of makeup samples, tangled cords, old hair ties, expired lip balm. It was private the same way a childhood diary is private, not guarded, just invisible unless you were looking. But that night, I opened it. Not because I was suspicious. Not because I was angry. I opened it because I was putting away a comb she left on the sink, and my hands moved without thinking. Maybe some part of me knew. Maybe I was ready. At the very back of the drawer was a small, worn notebook. Gray. Spiral-bound. Cheap. The kind you buy in a 3-pack and forget about. No lock. No label. No reason to open it. Except that it was the only thing in there that didn't belong. I hesitated for a long time before flipping the cover. The first page was blank. The second said, "Things I can't say to Clay." And then it began. A list. Pages and pages. Some lines were crossed out. Some rewritten multiple times. Some didn't make sense. Others hit me like bricks. They weren't letters or confessions. They were thoughts. Raw. Unfiltered. Painfully unspoken. I miss how he used to reach for me in his sleep. I'm scared I'm becoming someone I hate. I fantasize about disappearing more than cheating. I think he resents me. I think I deserve it. And then, this one. I felt something break the day I lost it. I never told him. I couldn't. It felt too small to matter, and too big to explain. That one stopped me cold. Lost what? I flipped ahead. Past grocery notes and anxiety spirals. Past sketches of flowers and torn-out pages. Until I found it, dated almost a year ago. A short paragraph in shaky handwriting. The pregnancy wasn't planned. I didn't even know for sure until it was over. It happened so fast. I told myself it was a false alarm, but the bleeding wouldn't stop. I didn't tell Clay because I thought, what if it wasn't real? What if it didn't count? What if he'd think I was trying to make it about me again? I buried it. I buried it so deep I stopped feeling anything at all. Maybe that's when I started going numb. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, notebook in hand, reading that one sentence over and over again. I didn't tell Clay. I remembered that week. Vividly. She had been quiet, pale, tired. She said it was a stomach bug. Slept a lot. I brought her soup, ran errands, gave her space. I thought I was being a good husband. I had no idea she was silently grieving something we didn't even know we lost. And suddenly, every cold shoulder, every avoided kiss, every moment of emotional retreat, it all looked different. Not like betrayal, not like rejection, but like a drowning woman learning how to breathe underwater. She wasn't cheating. She was grieving. And I wasn't absent. I was oblivious. I didn't tell her I found the notebook. I couldn't. Not yet. She deserved the right to carry it a little longer without interrogation. But it changed everything in me. Every plan I had, every line I drew in my head about who was right and who was wrong, it all blurred into this muddy, aching gray. That night, I didn't wait for her to turn off the light first. I rolled over, pulled her hand into mine, and said, quietly, so she couldn't mistake it for performance, "I think we forgot how to talk." She didn't say anything at first. Then she whispered back, "No, we remember. We're just out of practice." We lay there in the dark, holding the silence like it might break if we let go. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like I was sleeping beside a stranger. I felt like I was beside someone broken. And maybe, finally, I was brave enough to admit that I was broken too. But before we could heal anything, there was one more storm coming. Because the man who vanished, the one she said stopped replying, he hadn't vanished at all. The man didn't disappear. We found that out on a Monday morning, 2 weeks after I read the notebook, and we finally started talking again. Really talking. Not like strangers in a shared house, but like two people cautiously stepping back into the fire to see if there was still warmth left. That morning, I went to take out the trash, and there it was, a small, unmarked envelope tucked under the windshield wiper of my car. Inside was a single photo. Marla, standing in the grocery store parking lot, laughing. Unposed. Natural. Taken from a distance. There was nothing written on it. No message. No name. Just the image. I felt cold in places I didn't know could feel cold. Not because it was threatening, but because it was intimate. Someone out there still believed he had a piece of her. Still believed he was owed something. I didn't show it to her. Not right away. Instead, I called the officer who handled our case. This time, I demanded escalation. I showed him the photo. Told him everything. The email trail, the fake mentorship, the surveillance. He took it seriously. Promised follow-up. Advised cameras, security lights, routine shifts. We did all of it. For weeks after, nothing happened. No more photos. No more emails. No sightings. It was as if Darren knew the game was up. Or maybe, just maybe, he finally understood she wasn't alone anymore. Because something had shifted between us. We didn't become magically whole overnight. We didn't leap into forgiveness or fall back into old routines. That's not how real healing works. But we started doing something we hadn't done in years. We showed up. We sat at the table again, even when it was awkward. We walked around the block at night, and sometimes didn't speak, just held hands like we were remembering how to move in sync. We deleted apps we didn't need, canceled distractions, focused on the small things, dinner at the same time, reading to the kids together, laughing at terrible movies just to feel something shared. And one day, completely unprompted, she said, "I'm sorry for giving my pain to a stranger before I gave it to you." I said, "I'm sorry for assuming you were the villain in a story I wrote alone." We cried together for the first time since our wedding day. It didn't fix anything. It just broke something open. And from there, we started over, not rebuilding the past, but building something new. Something messy, but more honest. We agreed to couples therapy. We didn't go in trying to prove who was right. We went in trying to learn how to listen. We failed. A lot. But every failure felt like movement. Like tension being released in small, healthy fractures. We burned the old rules. We made new ones. Like, we don't leave pain unspoken for more than 24 hours. Like, we don't read into silence. We ask. Like, we love each other loudly, not just through chores and checklists. Months passed. Seasons changed. And eventually, without realizing it, we started laughing again, touching again, living with each other, not just beside each other. We planted a garden that spring. Something simple. Herbs and tomatoes and a stubborn little rose bush that kept trying to die. We tended it together, watered it at odd hours, named the basil plant Basil Rathbone just to make the kids laugh. It's still growing. So are we. Marla and I will never be the same people we were in the beginning. And thank God for that. Because the people we were back then didn't know how to survive what we went through. But the people we are now, we're better. Not in spite of the cracks, because of them. And if you're listening to this, thinking your own marriage is falling apart, thinking it's too late, too broken, too hollow to save, I won't give you false hope. But I will tell you this. Sometimes you don't need to fix what broke. Sometimes you just need to stop pretending it was never broken and build something stronger from the wreckage. Together.